General Patton sent 300 soldiers to die for one man, and for the rest of his life, he said that was not true. This story begins with a version everyone accepted, a clean version, a heroic version. In March 1945, as the war in Europe was nearing its end, Patton approved a mission to free American prisoners from a German camp called WWII 13B. On paper, it made perfect sense. Allied command feared that prisoners could be moved or harmed as front lines collapsed. A fast strike deep behind enemy lines could save lives, and Patton was the man to do it. A commander known for speed, bold decisions, and absolute confidence. Soldiers saw him as unstoppable. Officers followed him because he delivered results. His reputation was not just strong, it was untouchable. So when 300 men were ordered to move 60 miles into enemy territory, few questioned the purpose. Orders in war are built on trust. Trust that the mission matters. Trust that the risk is necessary. But here's the problem. What if the mission was not what they were told? What if the real reason was never written in the orders? And what if the truth was hidden in plain sight the entire time? WWII 13B was not just another camp on a map. It held hundreds of Allied officers captured across North Africa, Italy, and France. Men who had been out of the war for months, some for years. By early 1945, intelligence reports warned that as German defenses collapsed, these prisoners could be moved deeper into Germany or used as leverage. That made the camp a valid target. That was the official logic. But inside the intelligence files, there was a name that changed everything. Lieutenant Colonel John Waters, an experienced officer, captured in Tunisia, held for over 2 years. On paper, just one more prisoner among many, but not in reality. He was married to Patton's daughter. Now the equation shifts. Hundreds of names on a list, but one name with a direct line to the commanding general. One personal connection inside a military objective. Ask yourself this. Out of all the camps across Germany, why this one? Why now? Why send a small force so deep, so fast, with limited support? The official answer sounds strategic. The real answer starts to sound personal. And that difference changes everything. The task force was assembled quickly, around 300 men, 10 medium tanks, light armor, half-tracks, enough to move fast, not enough to sustain a deep operation. Captain Abraham Baum, only 24 years old, was placed in command. He asked the questions any trained officer would ask: enemy strength, supply lines, extraction plan. He did not receive clear answers. This matters. In military planning, missing information is not a small detail. It is a warning sign. When a mission moves faster than its own logic, something is being hidden or ignored. The soldiers felt it too. Veterans in the column understood distance, fuel, resistance. 60 miles behind enemy lines is not a raid, it is a gamble. Some asked questions. The answers stayed vague. And above all of this stood Patton, a general who had access to intelligence others did not, a man who knew exactly who was inside that camp. His public explanation was simple: disrupt the enemy, free prisoners. But his private diary, written without an audience, tells a different story. He noted that Waters was there before the mission began. So here is the core tension. The men were told one reason. The commander may have had another. And once that order was given, there was no turning back. The column moved in darkness. At first, speed worked in their favor. German units were surprised. Roads opened. The task force pushed deeper than expected. But distance is a silent enemy. Every mile stretched fuel, coordination, and timing. Resistance grew. Not all at once, but step by step. Roadblocks, delays, vehicles lost. The force that started small was becoming smaller. They reached the camp, WWII 13B. The gates opened. Hundreds of prisoners stepped forward, shocked to see American tanks so far behind the front. For a moment, the mission looked like success. Then reality returned. Lieutenant Colonel Waters was found, and in the confusion, he was seriously wounded. He could not be moved. Now the mission faced a problem no briefing had prepared them for. The man who may have been the hidden reason for the operation could not leave, and the task force, already weakened, now had to withdraw with a growing number of exhausted prisoners on foot. The return was no longer a surprise attack. It was a retreat through alerted defenses. Ambushes followed. Equipment was lost. The column broke apart. By the end, 32 men were dead. Most of the rest were captured, and the question became unavoidable. What exactly had they been sent there for?
When the full scale of the failure became clear, the reaction at the highest level was immediate. General Eisenhower was furious. Not just because the mission failed, but because of what it suggested. A commander risking men on an operation that did not follow clear military necessity. There were discussions about removing Patton from command. That alone tells you how serious this was. But the war was in its final stage. Replacing a general like Patton carried its own risks, so the decision was made to move forward without public punishment. And here is where the story splits in two. In public, Patton repeated the same explanation. The mission was strategic. The goal was to free prisoners, nothing more. He denied any personal motive, clearly and consistently. But in his private diary, written without pressure, he acknowledged that Waters was in that camp before the mission began. This is the gap that defines the entire story, what was said and what was known. Leadership is built on trust. Soldiers follow orders because they believe those orders serve a purpose larger than any one person. When that line becomes unclear, the cost is not abstract. It is measured in names, in families, in lives that do not return. So now the question is yours. Was this a justified risk in war, or a personal decision hidden behind a military excuse? And if you were there, would you still follow that order?